I am Daniel Archer, a 37-year-old physics teacher at Riverside High School. That evening, sitting beside my wife at our wedding reception renewal ceremony, I felt the universe contracting around me, as if all the careful equations I'd built my life upon were about to collapse into chaos. The venue was elegant, the grand pavilion at Harborview Cultural Trust, where Elizabeth worked as public events coordinator. Soft lighting reflected off champagne flutes. 200 guests filled the room, colleagues, family, old friends who'd watched us build a life together over 8 years. Our daughter, 6-year-old Lily, sat between us in her flower girl dress, swinging her legs happily beneath the white tablecloth. I remember the exact moment everything changed. I was calculating in my head, as I often did when anxious, the probability that this evening would go smoothly. High, I decided. Very high. Elizabeth had planned every detail meticulously. The food was excellent. The music was perfect. People were laughing, drinking, celebrating. Then Gregory Hammond stepped onto the small stage. Gregory was Elizabeth's colleague at the Trust, a fundraising coordinator with an easy charm that had always made me slightly uncomfortable. 35 years old, always impeccably dressed, the kind of man who seemed to glide through life on charisma alone. He'd worked closely with Elizabeth for the past year on various cultural events across Portland. "Friends and family," Gregory began, his voice smooth and confident. "I want to say a few words about the bride." Elizabeth tensed beside me. I felt it through the air between us, that sudden shift in atmospheric pressure that precedes a storm. "Elizabeth and I have spent countless hours together through work," Gregory continued, his gaze landing on my wife. "Long days, late nights, endless planning sessions for galas and exhibitions. She's driven, passionate, and honestly one of the most alive people I've ever met." Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. I glanced at Elizabeth. Her smile was fixed, but her knuckles were white around the stem of her Prosecco flute. "Daniel is a lucky man," Gregory said, raising his glass toward me. The words should have been complimentary. Instead, they felt like mockery. Though I have to admit, some of our business trips together were particularly memorable. My mother, seated 3 tables away, shifted uncomfortably. She'd never warmed to Elizabeth, not in all our years together. Too self-centered, she'd told me once, shortly after we'd gotten engaged. She thinks the world revolves around her. I'd defended Elizabeth then. Defended her choices, her ambition, her desire for a career that mattered. Now, watching Gregory's performance, I wondered if my mother had seen something I'd been too infatuated to notice. "And actually," Gregory added with a grin that made my stomach turn, "I brought something to share with everyone. A short video from our last conference in Seattle. Just a glimpse of Elizabeth being herself." My younger brother, Thomas, stood abruptly from his seat near the front. His face was flushed red. "I don't think that's appropriate," he said sharply, his voice cutting through the music. But Gregory was already connecting his laptop to the projector. Elizabeth laughed, too quickly, too loudly. "Gregory, don't be ridiculous. No one wants to watch boring work clips at a wedding reception." The projector screen flickered to life behind the dessert table. Lily looked up at Elizabeth, then at me, confusion clouding her small face. "Daddy? What's happening?" I reached for my daughter's hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just grown-up stuff." But it wasn't okay. The first image filled the screen. Elizabeth, in a hotel lounge I didn't recognize, wearing a deep crimson dress I'd never seen before, certainly not something she'd packed for a business conference. Gregory's arm was wrapped around her waist. Her head was tilted back in laughter, intimate and unguarded. The timestamp glowed in the corner, 11:47 p.m. A Tuesday. The murmurs started immediately. Low, spreading like fire across dry grass. "This is just colleagues unwinding after a long day," Elizabeth said loudly, standing up. Her voice was defensive, sharp-edged. "People relax. It's perfectly normal." But the video continued. Now they were in what was clearly a hotel room. Dancing. Her arms around his neck. His hands on her waist. Then kissing. No ambiguity. No room for misinterpretation. The video had sound. I could hear music. Laughter. Elizabeth's voice. I haven't felt this alive in years. "Turn it off," I said. My voice came out quieter than I'd intended, but the sudden silence in the room amplified it. Elizabeth turned on me. Her face was flushed, eyes bright with anger, or was it panic? "Oh, don't start," she snapped. "This is exactly the problem, Daniel. Your insecurity. Your constant need to control everything. God forbid your wife has a life outside of lesson plans and grading papers." My mother stood and walked out without a word. Several other guests followed: Elizabeth's uncle, two of my colleagues from the school, a handful of family friends who'd known us since we'd first started dating. Lily began to cry, soft at first, then louder. Elizabeth's mother, Rebecca, rushed over and scooped her up, carrying her toward the lobby. "What is wrong with you?" Thomas demanded, his face inches from Elizabeth's. "You humiliated him. In front of everyone. At your own wedding reception." "Nothing is wrong with me," Elizabeth shot back. "I refuse to pretend that marriage means suffocation and death of the self. If people can't handle honesty in modern relationships, that's not my responsibility." Even as she spoke, I watched the room turn against her. Whispers. Heads shaking. Elizabeth's colleagues from the trust looked horrified. One of them, Jennifer, I think her name was, covered her mouth with her hand. I said nothing. I remained perfectly still in my chair, my phone out, typing careful notes. Timestamps. Details. The name of the hotel visible in one frame. The dates. I messaged Thomas. "Can you get Gregory to send me that video file?" He replied immediately, already asked. Elizabeth noticed. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" "Taking notes," I said calmly. Something in my tone must have unsettled her, because she took a step back. Gregory eventually shut off the projector. The damage was done. The party continued for another hour, limping forward on momentum alone, before dissolving completely. Guests left early, murmuring excuses about babysitters and early mornings. Conversations died mid-sentence. By 9 o'clock, the grand pavilion was nearly empty. I found Lily with my mother in the lobby. She'd stopped crying, but her eyes were red and puffy. "Can we go home, Daddy?" she whispered. "Soon, sweetheart. Very soon." Elizabeth approached us, her expression defiant. "This will blow over. People overreact to everything these days." My mother looked at her with something close to pity. "You genuinely don't see what you've done, do you?" "I see people judging me for refusing to live in a box," Elizabeth replied. I picked up Lily. "We'll talk tomorrow," I told Elizabeth. "Tonight, I need to take care of our daughter." That was when I saw it, the first crack in Elizabeth's certainty. Fear, just for a moment, flashing across her face before she covered it with indignation. I carried Lily to the car while Thomas gathered our things. As we drove away from the grand pavilion, I watched the venue shrink in the rearview mirror. Behind me in the back seat, Lily asked, "Is Mommy coming home tonight?" I glanced at Thomas in the passenger seat. He was already on his phone, researching something. When he caught my eye, he nodded once. "I don't know, sweetheart," I told Lily. "I honestly don't know. But I did know one thing. The universe had just shown me the truth I'd been too trusting to see. And unlike Elizabeth, I understood that some equations, once broken, cannot be solved. They can only be survived." I woke up at 5:47 a.m. on my mother's couch. Lily was still asleep in the guest bedroom upstairs, exhausted from crying herself to sleep. My phone showed 32 missed calls and 17 text messages, most from Elizabeth. I ignored them all. Instead, I sat in my mother's kitchen, drinking coffee that tasted like ash, and opened my laptop. Thomas had sent me the video file at 2:14 a.m. with a single message. "Document everything." I mean everything. My brother was a corporate attorney in Seattle. He understood the machinery of conflict in ways I never had. Growing up, I'd been the dreamer, the one fascinated by quantum mechanics and theoretical physics, who believed that understanding the universe's fundamental rules meant understanding everything. Thomas had always been the pragmatist. "People don't follow rules," he'd told me once, when we were teenagers. "They follow incentives." I was about to learn just how right he was. By 7 a.m., I'd watched the video 4 times. Each viewing felt like swallowing broken glass. The intimacy between Elizabeth and Gregory wasn't just physical, though that was devastating enough. It was the ease, the laughter, the way she touched his face when they kissed, gentle and familiar, as if they'd done this 100 times before. "I haven't felt this alive in years," she'd said on the recording. Years. Not months. Years. How long had this been going on? My mother came downstairs at 7:30, already dressed despite the early hour. She'd always been an early riser, a trait I'd inherited. She poured herself coffee and sat across from me, without speaking for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" she finally asked. "I don't know yet. Thomas called me last night. He thinks you should speak with a lawyer immediately. Today, if possible." I nodded slowly. "He's probably right. Daniel." My mother reached across the table and gripped my hand. Her fingers were warm, solid, real. I know you love her. I know you want to fix this. But some things. She trailed off. Can't be fixed, I finished. Can't be fixed without her wanting to fix them, she corrected. And from what I saw last night, Elizabeth doesn't think anything is broken. That was the part that hurt most. Not the affair itself, though that pain was immense, but Elizabeth's absolute conviction that she'd done nothing wrong. That somehow, I was the problem for being hurt. At 8 a.m., my phone rang. Elizabeth. I answered. Yes. Where are you? Where's Lily? Her voice was sharp with anxiety. We're at my mother's house. Lily's still sleeping. When are you coming home? I don't know. A pause. Daniel, we need to talk about last night. People are blowing things out of proportion. Gregory was just trying to be funny. Stop, I interrupted. Just stop. There's video evidence of you cheating on me, Elizabeth. Shown publicly, at our wedding reception. And your first response was to defend it and attack me. I won't be shamed for wanting more from life. What about Lily? I asked quietly. The line went silent. What about our daughter? I pressed. Did you think about her when you were in that hotel room? Did you consider how this would affect her? That's not fair. It's entirely fair. We're not just two people anymore, Elizabeth. We have a child who watched her mother get exposed for having an affair, then watched her mother justify it by attacking her father. Do you understand what that does to a 6-year-old? I heard her breathing on the other end. Sharp. Angry. I'm taking Lily to school Monday, I said. I'll come by the house this afternoon to pick up some clothes. We'll talk then, but not before. I need time to think. Daniel. I ended the call. My mother was watching me carefully. That must have been hard. It was necessary. Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in her flower girl dress, her hair tangled from sleep. Daddy, why are we at Grandma's? I picked her up, even though she was getting too big for it. She wrapped her arms around my neck. Mommy and Daddy need some time to figure some things out, I said gently. But you're safe. You're loved. Nothing changes that. Are you getting divorced? The question hit like a punch. I don't know yet, sweetheart. Maybe. Would that scare you? She nodded against my shoulder. It scares me too, I admitted. But whatever happens, you'll always have both of us. That won't change. It was a promise I intended to keep, even if Elizabeth had already broken hers. By Sunday afternoon, Elizabeth's response to the wedding disaster had gone viral. My mother showed me her phone. Elizabeth had posted a selfie, taken in what I recognized as our bedroom, wearing minimal makeup, looking thoughtfully into the camera. The caption read, "Funny how threatened people become when a woman refuses to apologize for being herself. Living honestly isn't a crime. Modern love doesn't ask permission. If my marriage can't handle transparency and evolution, maybe it was never as strong as we pretended. Hashtag authentic living, hashtag modern marriage, hashtag no apologies." The post had been shared 300 times. The comments section was a battlefield. Half the responses praised her courage. Yes, Queen. Traditional marriage is a patriarchal prison. And finally someone brave enough to live their truth. The other half was vicious. You cheated and humiliated your husband publicly. That's not evolved. That's cruel. And I hope he takes everything in the divorce. But what disturbed me most were the comments from people we actually knew. Elizabeth's colleagues, our neighbors, friends from college. Jennifer from the trust wrote, "Elizabeth, what you did was incredibly hurtful. This isn't about being progressive. It's about being honest with your partner. You betrayed Daniel's trust." Elizabeth's response, "Trust requires space for growth. Daniel knew who I was when he married me." Did I? I thought about the woman I'd met 9 years ago at a museum fundraiser in Portland. She'd been magnetic, confident, articulate, passionate about art and culture in ways that made my physics lectures seem sterile by comparison. She'd challenged me, made me laugh, made me feel like the world was bigger and more vibrant than I'd realized. When had that vibrance curdled into narcissism? Or had I simply been too infatuated to notice the warning signs? Thomas arrived at my mother's house Sunday evening with a briefcase and a grim expression. "You've seen the post," he said. It wasn't a question. Everyone's seen the post. He opened his laptop on the dining room table. "I've been doing research. Oregon is a no-fault divorce state, which means the affair itself won't impact the divorce proceedings much, but it absolutely matters for custody." Custody? The word felt foreign in my mouth. "Daniel, listen to me. Elizabeth just publicly defended cheating on you. She's shown a pattern of prioritizing her desires over family stability. A judge will consider that when determining what's in Lily's best interest. I don't want to weaponize our daughter. You're not. You're protecting her. Thomas pulled up several documents. I've already contacted a family law attorney in Portland. Margaret Foster. She's one of the best. She can see you Monday afternoon if you're available. This is moving so fast. It has to. Elizabeth is controlling the narrative right now. She's painting herself as a victim of conventional morality and you as an oppressive husband. If you don't respond, that becomes the accepted story. I looked toward the living room, where Lily was watching cartoons with my mother. She looked so small, so fragile. What do I need to do? I asked. Thomas slid a notepad across the table. Start documenting. Everything. Financial records showing any money spent on the affair. Communications between Elizabeth and Gregory. Witnesses who saw them together. Timeline of events. Margaret will need all of it. This feels calculated. It is calculated. That's the point. Elizabeth is acting on emotion and ego. You need to act on strategy and evidence. Physics, remember? Cause and effect. Action and reaction. He was right, of course. Physics had taught me that the universe operates on consistent principles. Emotions lie. Evidence doesn't. I spent Sunday night reconstructing the past 6 months in painful detail. Business trips Elizabeth had taken. Late nights she'd explained away as donor meetings or event planning. The new dresses. The expensive perfume she'd bought for herself. The emotional distance that I'd attributed to work stress. All of it, I now understood, had been Gregory. By midnight, I had a timeline. By 2 a.m., I'd accessed our joint credit card statements. Elizabeth had never hidden the passwords, probably never imagining I'd look, and found thousands of dollars in hotel charges, restaurants, and a weekend trip to Victoria Island that she'd told me was a solo retreat. The evidence was overwhelming, and it made me feel sick. Not because I was discovering the affair, I already knew it existed, but because of what it revealed about my marriage. Elizabeth had been living a double life for months, maybe longer, and I'd been too trusting, too absorbed in my teaching and parenting to notice. People see what they want to see, my quantum mechanics professor had once told me. Observation collapses possibility into reality. I'd been observing the wrong things. Monday morning, I took Lily to school. She held my hand tightly as we walked across the playground. "Daddy," she said softly, "are people going to ask me about Mommy?" "They might. If they do, you can tell them it's private family business. You don't owe anyone an explanation. But what if they see the video?" I stopped walking and knelt down to her eye level. "Listen to me. What happened at the reception was not your fault. Not even a little bit. Adults make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes hurt people. But you, Lily, are perfect, and anyone who says otherwise isn't worth your time." She hugged me tight. When I stood up, I saw several other parents watching us from across the playground. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked away quickly, embarrassed. The whispers had already started. Margaret Foster's office was on the 14th floor of a glass building downtown Portland. Professional. Intimidating. Exactly what I needed. She was in her early 50s, I guessed, with sharp eyes and an efficiency that reminded me of a surgeon preparing for a complex operation. "Mr. Archer," she greeted me, shaking my hand firmly. Thomas briefed me on the situation. "I've reviewed the materials he sent over. Please sit." I sat across from her desk while she pulled up a digital file. "Let me be direct," Margaret said. "Based on what I've seen, you have grounds for a strong divorce case. The affair is documented. Elizabeth's public defense of it demonstrates poor judgment. But none of that matters as much as one question. What do you want?" "I want Lily protected." "Good. That's the right answer. Do you want to pursue primary custody?" The question made my stomach drop. I don't know. I want what's best for Lily. Then let me be very clear. Judges in Oregon prioritize the child's best interest above all else. Elizabeth's behavior, especially her public justification of the affair, will be taken into account. But you'll need to demonstrate that you can provide stability, consistency, and a healthy environment. I'm a high school teacher. I have steady income, health insurance, a stable home. Does Elizabeth? I paused. She works for the Harborview Cultural Trust, but her job depends heavily on public reputation and donor relations. Margaret made a note. Has her employer responded to the video incident? I don't know. Find out. If she's facing professional consequences, that impacts her ability to provide financial stability. It felt brutal, dissecting our life this way. But Thomas was right. I couldn't afford to be emotional. Not now. There's something else you should know, Margaret said carefully. In high-conflict divorces, especially those involving infidelity, character matters. Elizabeth is currently controlling the public narrative, positioning herself as progressive and you as controlling. We need to counter that. How? Documentation. Witnesses. Evidence of your involvement in Lily's life. School events, medical appointments, daily care. We build a case that you're the stable, consistent parent, while Elizabeth is impulsive and self-focused. She's not a bad mother, I said reflexively. Margaret looked at me steadily. No one is saying she is. But priorities matter. A parent who publicly prioritizes personal freedom over family stability raises questions about judgment. I left her office 3 hours later with a clear plan. Document everything, maintain stability for Lily, avoid engaging in public drama, and prepare for Elizabeth to escalate. What I didn't expect was how quickly that escalation would come. I went home Tuesday afternoon to pack clothes. Elizabeth's car was in the driveway. I'd half expected her to be at work. She was waiting in the living room when I walked in. "We need to talk," she said. "I agree." She looked exhausted. The defiance from Sunday's social media post had faded, replaced with something more fragile. For a moment, I felt sympathy. Then I remembered the video. The lies. The months of deception. "I ended things with Gregory," Elizabeth said abruptly. I sat down across from her. "When?" "This morning." I told him it was a mistake. "What was the mistake?" "Sleeping with him or getting caught." She flinched. "That's not fair. Neither was humiliating me at our wedding reception." "Daniel, She stopped, struggling. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way." "But you meant for it to happen." Silence. "How long?" I asked. "How long were you sleeping with him?" "Does it matter?" "Yes. It matters." She looked away. "For months. Maybe 5. 5 months." While I'd been teaching students about momentum and energy conservation, Elizabeth had been building a secret life. 5 months of lies, of looking me in the eye and pretending everything was fine. "Did you love him?" I asked. "No. It wasn't about love." "Then what was it about?" "Feeling alive," she said quietly. "Feeling like I mattered. Like I was more than just routine." The words cut deeper than I'd expected. Was I really that boring? I asked. "No. Yes. I don't know." Elizabeth stood up, pacing. "You're a good man, Daniel. A good father. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being partners and became roommates. Co-parents. You stopped seeing me. You stopped letting me see you," I countered. "Every time I asked how you were, you deflected. Every time I suggested date night, you were too tired. You built a wall, Elizabeth, then blamed me for not climbing it." "I needed space." "You needed an affair," I corrected. "There's a difference." She sank back onto the couch, and for the first time, I saw genuine regret on her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Daniel." Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to take that apology and rebuild from it. But another part, the part that had been taking notes, gathering evidence, planning, knew it was too late. "I spoke with an attorney yesterday," I said. Elizabeth's head snapped up. "What?" "Margaret Foster, family law specialist." "You're divorcing me?" Her voice cracked. "I'm protecting Lily. And myself." "Daniel, please, we can fix this. Counseling. Therapy. I'll do whatever it takes." "Can you apologize publicly?" I asked. "Can you take down that social media post and admit what you did was wrong?" She hesitated. That hesitation was my answer. "That's what I thought," I said quietly. I went upstairs and packed a suitcase. Elizabeth didn't follow. When I came back down, she was crying. "I don't want to lose you," she said. "You already did," I replied. "The moment you chose Gregory over our family." I walked out, closing the door behind me with a soft click that felt like the end of everything. The fallout came faster than I'd anticipated. By Wednesday, Elizabeth had been placed on paid administrative leave from the Harborview Cultural Trust. The official statement cited ongoing personal matters requiring time away to resolve, but everyone knew the truth. The wedding video had damaged the trust's reputation. Donors were calling. Board members were asking questions. Elizabeth texted me, "They're destroying my career over this." I didn't respond. Thursday morning, Lily asked if she could stay with me full time. "Why, sweetheart?" I asked gently. "Mommy's sad all the time now. And she keeps crying and saying it's not her fault." I called Margaret immediately. "Document it," she said. Lily's preference matters, especially at her age. If she's uncomfortable at Elizabeth's house, that's significant. I hated this. Hated using my daughter's pain as evidence. But Margaret was right. Lily's well-being came first. Friday afternoon, Margaret called me into her office again. "We need to accelerate the timeline," she said. "I'm filing divorce papers today." Today? Elizabeth is unraveling. Her social media activity has become erratic. She posted another long defense this morning, calling you emotionally abusive and controlling. That helps us, but it also means she's getting desperate. Desperate people make bad decisions. The papers were filed at 3:47 p.m. Elizabeth called me at 4:02 p.m., screaming, "You didn't even give me a chance. You filed for divorce without telling me." "You had your chance," I said calmly. "Multiple chances. You chose to defend the affair instead of apologizing. I shouldn't have to apologize for living authentically. Then you shouldn't be surprised by the consequences." I hung up. That night, Elizabeth showed up at my mother's house. I watched through the window as she pounded on the door, demanding to see Lily. My mother called the police. "She's not threatening," I told the officer who arrived. "But she's not stable right now. I have custody arrangements being worked out. Can you ask her to leave?" The officer spoke to Elizabeth quietly on the porch. She left without incident, but not before looking up at the window where I stood and mouthing, "This isn't over." Maybe it wasn't, but for the first time since the wedding reception, I felt like I was on solid ground. Physics had taught me that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Elizabeth was discovering that lesson the hard way. The investigation started quietly. On Monday, 2 weeks after I'd filed for divorce, Elizabeth received a call from the Harborview Cultural Trust's comptroller. "Routine audit," they said. "Standard procedure during administrative leave." By Tuesday afternoon, it was no longer routine. I got a call from Margaret. "Daniel, we need to talk. Now." I drove to her office immediately, leaving Lily with my mother. Margaret's expression was grave when I arrived. The trust's internal investigation uncovered financial irregularities in Elizabeth's expense accounts. My stomach dropped. What kind of irregularities? Charges totaling approximately $8,000 over 6 months. Hotels, restaurants, travel, all disguised as business expenses. But the dates and locations correspond with her affair with Gregory Hammond. I sat down heavily. She used trust funds for her affair? It appears so. The trust is treating it as potential embezzlement. They've contacted law enforcement. The room tilted. This is criminal? If prosecuted, yes. Fraud. Misuse of nonprofit funds. The trust relies on donor money, Daniel. This isn't just an HR issue, it's potentially federal. I thought about Lily. About what this would mean for her mother. For her family. What happens now? I asked. The trust will continue investigating. If they find sufficient evidence, they'll press charges. Given Elizabeth's current state and her public behavior, she's not helping herself. That turned out to be an understatement. That same Tuesday, Elizabeth posted another lengthy social media screed. Update: I'm being persecuted by a vindictive organization that can't handle a woman living on her own terms. They're auditing my expenses, looking for any excuse to destroy me. This is what happens when you refuse to apologize for being human. The patriarchy always finds a way to punish women who dare to be free. #persecution, #modern witch hunt. The comments section exploded. But this time, even her defenders were questioning her judgment. One comment stood out. "Elizabeth, stop. You're making this worse. Get a lawyer and delete your social media." Elizabeth's response: "I won't be silenced." 3 weeks later, I was grading physics exams in my classroom when my phone rang. "Thomas, have you seen the news?" he asked. "What news?" "Elizabeth was arrested this morning." The dry erase marker slipped from my hand. "What?" "Portland police, accompanied by federal investigators. Fraud charges. 8 counts. It's on every local news site." I pulled up my phone browser with shaking hands. The headline: Portland Cultural Trust employee arrested on fraud charges following viral wedding scandal. The photo showed Elizabeth in handcuffs, being led into a police station. Her expression was a mixture of shock and defiance. I called Margaret immediately. "I heard," she said. "This changes the custody situation significantly." "How?" "A parent facing federal fraud charges cannot have primary custody. The court won't allow it." I drove straight to my mother's house. Lily was playing in the backyard, unaware. "What do I tell her?" I asked my mother. The truth, she said sadly. Age appropriate, but honest. She'll find out eventually. Better it comes from you. That evening I sat Lily down. Sweetheart, Mommy made some mistakes at work. She's in trouble with the police. Lily's eyes went wide. Is Mommy in jail? No, honey. She's at home. But she has to go to court and talk to judges about what she did. What did she do? How do you explain embezzlement to a 6-year-old? She spent money that didn't belong to her. It was wrong, and now she has to face consequences. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then, is Mommy a bad person? No. Mommy made bad choices, but that doesn't make her a bad person. People are complicated, Lily. Sometimes good people do wrong things. But even as I said it, I wondered if I believed it anymore. The trial was set for 6 months later. In the interim, Elizabeth's life continued to collapse. She lost her job permanently. Her mugshot went viral, spawning memes and cruel commentary across social media. The friends who defended her progressive marriage views vanished. Gregory Hammond, I learned, had left Portland entirely, taken a job in Denver, erased his social media presence, walked away clean while Elizabeth faced federal charges. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. Lily started therapy. Twice a week, she sat in a child psychologist's office and processed what it meant that her mother was facing prison time. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I attended every day, sitting in the back of the courtroom while prosecutors laid out Elizabeth's financial deception in methodical detail. Expense reports, credit card statements, hotel receipts, testimony from trust employees who'd suspected something but hadn't spoken up. Gregory Hammond testified via video link from Denver. He claimed ignorance about the funding source. I thought Elizabeth paid for everything herself, he said smoothly. Elizabeth's attorney tried to argue she'd intended to reimburse the trust, that it was a bookkeeping error, not fraud. The prosecution destroyed that argument with emails showing Elizabeth had deliberately coded personal expenses as business costs, complete with fabricated documentation. On the witness stand, Elizabeth finally broke. I just wanted to feel alive, she sobbed. I just wanted someone to see me as more than a mother and a wife. The prosecutor's response was brutal. So you stole $8,000 from a nonprofit arts organization? Elizabeth had no answer. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Elizabeth was sentenced to 18 months in minimum security federal prison, followed by 2 years probation and full restitution to the Harborview Cultural Trust. She served 14 months before early release for good behavior. During that time, Lily and I built a new life. I had primary custody. The house was sold to pay legal fees and restitution. I rented a modest 2-bedroom apartment near Lily's school, bare walls, second-hand furniture, but it was ours and it was honest. Lily thrived. Her grades improved. She joined the school art club. The nightmares about the wedding reception slowly faded. She still asked about her mother, but less frantically now. More with curiosity than fear. I dated no one. I focused on teaching, on parenting, on rebuilding trust with my daughter, with myself. The universe had collapsed. The equations had broken. But from the wreckage, Lily and I were building something new, something smaller, quieter, but infinitely more solid. Physics teaches us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. The same is true of love, of family, of trust. What we lost couldn't be recovered. But what we were building together, one honest day at a time, was real. And that was enough. Thank you for watching the video to the end. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. A playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to is now displayed on the screen. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.